And joining us now on Scripps News is Scripps News legal analyst and former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney Michael Scotto and trial attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. And I just want to start out with a reaction on Hicks's really emotional moment today on the stand. Jeremy, as a trial attorney, what kind of impact does this sort of emotional outpouring have on a case?
Trial's like a football game that you don't know who wins until the game is over, and then you look at the scoreboard, and it was really close or really far. I think any lawyer who tries a lot of cases has talked to a lot of jurors who say, after a witness is crying, that the jury knew that they were lying all along or that they believed him. So it's really, really hard to read into that. If you're cross-examining somebody who's in that kind of an emotional state, what you obviously don't want to be mean and you don't want to be vicious towards them, but you got a job to do. You might change your voice inflection, you might change your tone, you might change your approach, but you don't change your game plan. And you don't necessarily want to sign off or endorse on any kind of coddling. You want to be kind but firm. But you're right. I mean, it can be a very powerful emotional moment in the trial.
And Michael, the emotions came after Hicks was asked about Trump saying something to the effect of Michael Cohen paying Stormy Daniels was, quote, out of the kindness of his heart. And Hicks was quite a bit skeptical of that because Cohen has been characterized throughout this entire process as someone who does things to benefit himself. So what is the significance of that disagreement between Hicks's interpretation of this particular situation and Trump's interpretation of the situation?
Well, I mean, I think it was interesting that through cross-examination, the defense was trying to get out that perhaps, and in fact, Ms. Hicks actually said, I believe during direct examination, that Cohen had gone rogue at some point, and the line that, everybody had a chuckle about, that, he was a self-proclaimed fixer, but he was fixing things that were broken. I think, that was maybe a significant piece of evidence that is coming out because I think part of the argument is maybe, Michael Cohen went rogue. We've heard one audio tape, and that has to do with Karen McDougal, but we don't have an audio tape of Cohen talking to Trump about Stormy Daniels. So I think to the extent that that came out, I think her perception as somebody there who, came in to testify as a prosecution witness, obviously somebody very close to former President Trump and somebody who, knew the characters and interacted with them, I think that was actually a helpful bit of evidence for the defense, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and, Michael just mentioned this. Hicks also testified about Cohen and his apparent eagerness to be involved in things. Hicks told the defense, and we want to show you what she said on the screen here, he would try to insert himself at certain moments, but he wasn't supposed to be on the campaign in any official capacity. There were things he did in a voluntary capacity because of his interest. And when the defense asked about whether or not Cohen, quote, went rogue, she said he liked to call himself a fixer or Mr. Fix-It, and it was only because he first broke it. Jeremy, how close do you think the defense attorney actually came to convincing the jury that Michael Cohen went rogue and Trump had no idea about the payments, no connection to what Cohen was doing?
This case is about Michael Cohen's credibility. If I'm the defense, that's exactly how I'm arguing it. And what I see forming is that the prosecution is very slowly but very surely trying to make it as anticlimactic as they can. They're trying to make it to where you're going to believe Michael Cohen before the man even takes the witness stand. So it's imperative that through each and every witness that you do what you can do to advance your theory, like you're saying. Michael Cohen is going rogue. He considers himself Mr. Fix-It. He's a guy who's trying to do the boss a favor. He's trying to show off, right? Even when they were cross-examining Hope Hicks and trying to talk about Melania and the relationship, right? If they're right about that, if Trump is really trying to do all these things and falsify business documents, not to break campaign finance laws, but to save his marriage, that's just a misdemeanor. So they've got to, with each and every witness, that the prosecution is trying to wall them in and wall them in and wall them in and move to the center. Each witness, they have to create that space. And I don't know if they did that with Ms. Hicks or not. It sounds, based on what I'm reading and based on what I'm hearing, that it was a little hands off. They did get some concessions, though, from her with the Mr. Fix-It, and that he likes to go rogue. I think that is definitely something that you're going to hear in closing argument.
Yeah, and we have to see exactly what the jury is able to remember weeks down the road. Let's play a quick soundbite from the former president on the gag order.
The gag order is not to testify. The gag order stops me from talking about people and responding when they say things about me. We have people saying things about me, and I'm not allowed to respond.
Michael, why would Trump say he couldn't testify because of the gag order, only to turn around today and issue some sort of a correction on this, saying that he is able to testify?
I mean, I can only surmise that it's because he, doesn't want people to think that he was wrong, that maybe he was misinterpreted yesterday. But it was pretty clear that he was alleging that the court was gagging him to, keeping him from being able to testify in his own defense. So, clearly that's not the law. The judge laid that out today, and he did that so that there wouldn't be any issue on appeal that Mr. Trump, thought that he couldn't testify at his own trial in his defense, which, frankly, I think is absurd that he might even think that. But I honestly can't really tell you why he did that, other than I think he just wanted to correct the record, the public record.
Yeah, which is a bit unusual for the former president. Sometimes if there are statements that he makes that are not correct, he'll just move on. So to see that correction today, exactly. It's quite interesting. I want to have a follow-up for you, Michael. Hicks wasn't the only witness who testified today. The day started out with the forensic analyst from the prosecutor's office who talked about the recording that you mentioned earlier today, a recording on Cohen's phone, and it was between Cohen and the former president, and they were talking about this hush money deal. Why is that not a slam dunk for the prosecution? Why doesn't that show a direct connection that the former president knew about this deal?
Well, if you believe that it's authentic, and I'm not saying it isn't authentic, but I think there were some definite issues that came out on cross-examination. There's a missing 48 seconds of this recording. The phone was wiped, and then later on, the cloud downloaded a recording. So, not only do you have to say it's Cohen's voice on there and Mr. Trump's voice on there, but somebody's got to authenticate it and say that it, fairly and accurately depicts the conversation. So that's one issue. But the other issue is they're talking about an entirely different payoff that went through, the Inquirer. And they've had to then connect that to these false records that allegedly related to Mr. Cohen being reimbursed for the payment to Stormy Daniels after the election. Mm-hmm. So, certainly they can say it circumstantially connects them. It's his state of mind and it's part of this conspiracy. Mm-hmm. But again, I think the jury is going to be saying, well, if there's a recording of McDougal, why isn't there one for Stormy Daniel? And certainly Mr. Cohen liked recording things.
And that was a point that you brought up earlier today. Former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney Michael Scotto and Trial Attorney Jeremy Rosenthal, thank you both for being here. We're smarter because you took the time out to be here with us today, so thank you.